We ask from your dhamma practice, have you found peace and happiness? Says you're very lucky that you have the chance here in Australia to come to the temples, to practice, to listen to the Dhamma, to meditate, to ask questions, discuss, so that your understanding grows. And this is the most important thing for us to really practice, and we have this opportunity, so we're very lucky. As if we really want to progress in the practice of the Dhamma, the Buddhist teachings, then we not only should practice when we come to the temples, but also when we're at home. And we have to try and develop some personal discipline, so that we should aim to maybe practice every day, we just put in some time into chanting the Buddhist teachings, the suttas. And he knows Sri Lankan people are often very good at chanting, because you've learned the Pali and many of the suttas. And to also take the time to practice some meditation at home, maybe anapanasati, learn to practice mindfulness of breathing and improve your awareness, your mindfulness that way. And then even when at work, to take the time to really try and practice mindfulness while you're doing your daily duties, mindfulness of your speech, mindfulness of what you're thinking as you go through your day. So if you're doing this on a regular basis, you're meditating, chanting, practicing mindfulness in daily life, and then when you have the chance, you come to the temple to make offerings, to listen to the Dhamma, meditate at the temple. You're doing this regularly, practicing at home, coming to visit the temple, get more teachings, then you'll find over time the level of your mind and the level of your practice, your concentration, your understanding will increase gradually, little by little. It's asking what your experience in meditation might be. Saying, have you maybe practicing anapanasati, or in Thailand they use the mantra Buddho, from the word Buddha. He's asking, what is your experience with that? Have you experienced some peace of mind, some stillness, one-pointedness? Yeah? Anapanasati. You found you sometimes get peaceful?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
As we are not working now, not going to work now, so I have more time at home.
As you know, we're all getting older, so if you find yourself now you're retired and you have more time, you're not working, then you should really dedicate yourself to the practice and use that opportunity you have. Before you had duties, you had work maybe to do. Now if you have free time, well, make your work and your free time your meditation and your Dhamma practice. And really contemplate how impermanent and uncertain our life is as human beings, and we're all getting older. So once you're older than 50 years old, then your body is just going to degenerate from now on. It's going to get older and weaker as we go. So we should really contemplate that, to bring up energy and effort in the practice, to say, well, I'm not sure how long I'll live. I can't be sure, so I might as well make use of my time to practice, to develop my mindfulness, my wisdom and understanding as much as I can, because I can't be sure how long I've got. And really contemplate to see that when we die, as the Buddha said, when we die, we can't take anything with us. We can't take our wealth, our possessions, all the people we like, we love, we can't take them with us. We have to separate from everything when we die. So we should really bring our minds to the Dhamma now, train them in mindfulness and wisdom, so that we have a true refuge inside, because these external things we can't take with us. Really we should look at our lives now and see that human beings, we're just like visitors to the world. We don't stay here for very long. We come into the world, live our lives, and then we leave again. At the time we're in this world, we tend to think we're the owners of the world. We say, oh, we own our house, we own this, we own that. But really, if you get the wider picture, the picture that comes from wisdom, you can see, oh, we're not really the owners of everything. We have to leave everything behind. So this is only all the more reason why we should practice the Dhamma, we should practice meditation and dedicate ourselves to this, because in the end nothing is ours, we have to leave it all. And when we can practice the Dhamma, what we develop with our mindfulness and our understanding is the ability to let go of the states of mind, the different akusala, unwholesome mental states which cause us suffering. The more mindfulness and awareness we have, we can see that, oh, this is suffering, all these desires and different thoughts which cause suffering, which feed attachment to the world, we can see, oh, this is the source of suffering. We can let them go through our practice and find much more inner peace, inner happiness. We should contemplate this every day, that the only thing that is really certain in life is the fact that one day we have to die. And nothing else is certain. The experiences we'll have are very unsure. We can't be sure what we're going to see and hear and experience, but we can be sure we'll die. And we should be thinking that now, even if we consider ourselves still young, say you're just 40 years old, you might think, oh, I've got a long way to go till I die, but it's not sure. We can't be sure how long we've got and when we're actually going to die. And when we contemplate this like this, it makes us careful with what we do with our minds, with our speech, our actions. We don't want to be careless or heedless. So we dedicate our efforts to the practice, contemplating like this, training our minds. When we practice developing mindfulness, what we turn our mindfulness to contemplate, use the mind that is aware of the truth, we turn it to contemplate anicca, dukkha, anatta, the impermanence, the unsatisfactoriness, and the lack of self in all phenomena. That means all physical phenomena around us in the world, either this body or the physical world, and mental phenomena, our own thoughts, feelings, memories. These are all subject to anicca, dukkha, anatta. They're impermanent, they're unsatisfactory, they're not self. And the more we have mindfulness and the more we contemplate to see this, then the more we can let go of these things. We're not deluded by the world, and we can see that, we come into this world, we're here temporarily, and then we leave when we die. And all these experiences aren't worth attaching to. With the mind of wisdom and understanding, we see there's not much point in attaching to these things, because we have to lose them, we have to separate from them. Nothing is permanent. And so little by little we can let go of our attachment to what we say sensuality, the sensual world which we experience through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch. And this is the way that the mind comes to inner peace. When it lets go of its attachment to these things, all that's left is the mindfulness, the wisdom inside the mind, inside the heart. Asking if anyone has any questions. Pekli, do you have anything to ask today?
Yeah, asking many questions. And just now when you were doing the talking, I seem to be able to follow exactly what you're saying, that. Like, I don't know how to hear it, say it, like together, say it together with you. It's very strange. Usually when you hear it, then you yeah. But this one, I'm talking together with you, my mind. So it seems that something travel faster than whatever. What happened? No, like what?
Is it a good thing? Is it a good thing?
Yeah, I don't know what is that. Is it
It's just a sign that your mindfulness is perhaps a little bit better, a little stronger at the moment. That's the result of practicing for many days.
Actually, there's a question. It's about a question. I know I've been asking a lot of questions in the past, but sometimes I notice that I'm not really interested in the answer. Just the question itself, and then I keep contemplating that question, asking myself why the question, why that question, and then I can develop a very deep understanding at the end of it. And sometimes the teacher's answer did help, but sometimes I can't remember what they say. All I'm interested is just a question. But certain time, I think I ask the question because maybe I look for praise. People say that, oh, you ask good questions. Sometimes it's like that. I did notice that. So in conclusion, I was thinking that question actually is also this is a big word, proliferation in the mind. So should I ask or not ask?
It's important to see that why do we ask questions, or the reason we ask questions is to help us understand clearer the way to practice the Dhamma, the way to practice the teachings. So in that sense, asking questions can be a good thing because it helps us to give us more. When we get an answer, then we can understand more and we can practice more in a correct way. But of course, as you say, asking questions does come from mental proliferation, and it can also stimulate more mental proliferation, just thinking questions, listening to the answers, contemplating it. That's the danger, that it can take us away from mindfulness. We can get caught too much into the intellectual side of the Dhamma. So I guess you have to have moderation in just seeing the results of your question asking. If it genuinely helps you to understand better, and that stimulates more practice and you become more peaceful, the results are good. But if it's asking questions leads to more questions, more proliferation, the mind is more stirred up, then it's a sign perhaps it's going too far. And in the end, the aim of our practice is always to bring ourselves to mindfulness states where there's good mindfulness, awareness, concentration is arising, so there's a sense of calm. And then we can develop what we call Pāvana Maya Panya, which is like the wisdom, the insight that comes from the still, quiet mind. And when you're developing that, you might have a question arise in your mind, but you won't need to ask anyone else. You actually have enough experience and enough wisdom arising from your own contemplation that the answer comes itself internally. That's what you're aiming for in the practice, get to that point where you can actually answer your own questions. When we contemplate the Dhamma, contemplate truth, we have to do this in the correct way, a skillful way. So if you're contemplating the impermanence, say anicca, and we reflect to see, this body, we come into the world, it's impermanent, and you might get to the point where you're seeing that everybody, ourselves, everybody else, we're all pretty much just flowing towards our death. There's no way out of that. We all have to end up dying. But you want to contemplate this in a skillful way, so it arouses urgency and energy in the practice. By seeing impermanence, then we want to carry on to develop more mindfulness, more wisdom, so that we can let go of our attachments and bring our mind to greater peace. If contemplating, say, death or impermanence brings one to the sense of depression, one sees, it's meaningless, depressing life, we're just all going to die, say, one has that kind of negative reaction, then one has to stop and say, this isn't going in the right direction, it's not bringing the correct results, it's actually making my mind more depressed, more unwholesome. So as we contemplate and practice the Dhamma, we have to always look at the results of what we're doing and to gauge and see whether we're really practicing in the correct way. And the results are to be seen in the reaction and the results coming up in our mind. If our mind is having more energy in the practice, more effort and more peace, then that's a sign it's going in the right way. But the contemplation of death, Ajahn Chah recommended particularly at times when our mind is very, very stirred up, agitated and restless, because it's such a powerful recollection. And so say if the mind is really overwhelmed by some aspect of greed or anger, or just deluded by things, confused, doubting, then when we turn to contemplate death, it will cut through the restless, the agitated thinking of the mind very well, because it brings a sense of finality to the mind. You just have to accept, when I'm going to die soon. It will cut through all these other, perhaps less important, more secondary thoughts that are bothering the mind at that time. So it is a very useful meditation technique.
I'm trying to explain the difference function between vimamsa under the 4 insi and the 7 factors of dhamma vichara. The difference function.
If we talk about vimamsa, say the use of wisdom to contemplate Vimamsa comes into the four, we say the four paths to success, or roads to success. The Buddha gave this, it's quite a general teaching. It's Chanta, Virya, Citta, Vimamsa. It's talking about these four qualities of mind that one needs if one wants to be successful in anything. And it didn't necessarily apply to one thing or the other. It's more a general teaching of the different qualities of mind that one needs to be successful. So you need Chanta. Say in terms of successful dhamma practice, you need Chanta, meaning have that desire, that sense of happiness, contentment to be practicing based on seeing the danger, the harm and the suffering that comes from attachment to the world and attachment to different mental defilements which cause suffering in the mind. When you see that, then you want to practice to find a way out of that suffering, to find some inner peace. Then you have Chanta. And with Chanta, that will lead on to Virya, meaning effort and energy. You'll only have effort and energy to do anything, whether it's practice, whether it's work, whatever, if you have that basic contentment to be doing that thing, you see the value of it and you're content, satisfied to be doing that thing, then you'll have effort and energy to put into it. And if you're going to be successful in whatever task you're doing, then you need Citta, which means like a mind that is focused and firmly focused on that work, that task, whether it's the practice of contemplating or even just some job of work you want to do. If you're focused on it, you stick with it, then you can do it successfully. And the last quality, Vimamsa, you need to be able to contemplate, to analyze, to contemplate and reflect in your mind to see what are the obstacles to this job becoming completed and successful, and what do I need to do to complete it and be successful. Have I completed and been successful in this job yet or not? These kind of reflections one has to have Vimamsa, or that function of the mind, the wisdom, the intelligence of the mind, reflecting to see what's needed to do to make that particular thing successful, that task or that aspect of the practice. Whereas Dhamma-vichaya, as one of the 7 factors of enlightenment, it's also using the wisdom faculty, but it's very much directed to contemplating Dhamma and contemplating in a way to see the truth of things, to let go of attachment. So it's maybe contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta, wisely reflecting, contemplating those characteristics as a way to free the mind from attachment. And this also leads on to virya, energy in the practice, but piti, pasati, joy and rapture of mind, of body, samadhi, the firmness of mind, and upekkha, the equanimity. In this sense, it's a more specific teaching. The Buddha is saying if you're to become enlightened, the mind is to clearly see the true nature of things, uproot its attachments, its defilements, then you have to do this, and it's got the 7 factors have to be there and followed. So it's a much more specific thing directed towards those factors which give rise to enlightenment in the mind.
Ajahn, is contemplating means wisely thinking or wise thinking? Something seen.
You could say the practice of wise reflection, wise thinking or contemplating, it's done on different levels. Say, in the beginning of practice, your wise contemplation or wise reflection is aimed at finding skillful means to overcome the hindrances, the 5 hindrances that block the arising of wholesome states of mind, and particularly are obstructing the arising of peaceful states of concentration, samadhi. So one uses wise reflection to deal with the different hindrances in the mind, whether it's attachment, greed, desire, anger, worry. One uses contemplation to help deal with those, to bring the mind to a sense of peace and calm. And one also uses particular meditation objects. That could be recollection of death, or recollection of the qualities of the Buddha, or anapanasati. And any of those meditation objects, meditation techniques, you're using wise thinking to direct your mind to that object and to become concentrated on that object successfully, you have to use wise reflection to do that. As you experience states of calm and peaceful concentration though, then you use that as a basis for contemplation. But this, on this level, when the mind is already peaceful and concentrated, and then one turns to contemplate Dhamma, there's not much thinking involved. It's what we call Pavanamaya Panya, which is more just knowing and clear seeing. And this is a bit different from just the ordinary kind of wise reflection that you might do in the preliminaries of the practice. This is clear seeing. So for instance, one practicing meditation becomes very peaceful and concentrated, and then say in the forest one sees a leaf drop off a tree because it's dried out, it's died, it drops off. Contemplating like this means one might just see that leaf drop, and then one turns one's attention back to this body and knows, this body has to die just like this leaf has to die and drop off the tree. And there's just a clear knowing of that, and maybe seeing that in everyone. Then everyone else one meets, one knows, everyone else is the same. I have to die, they have to die. And there's that clear perception and knowing of the impermanence of conditions, of sankharas, of mental conditions, physical conditions. That's just something one knows and clearly sees without thinking. So on that level, it's still contemplation, but it's without a lot of thinking. It's just knowing something.
Bhante, that means because of your practice, it automatically comes, that understanding. So that is bhavana panya.
Yeah.
Ven Ajahn, why certain people, when they experience the disappearing of the body, they can just accept it, while others, they get a fright and a lot of fear come up?
The main reasons fear might arise is one's meditating and it seems that the body becomes very light and seems to disappear. At that stage, the fear might arise mainly through just inexperience, unfamiliarity with the practice of samadhi and these different conditions and states that arise. One's not familiar with them, so they're new, they're strange, and so they trigger a sense of, what's this? And the mind, instead of relaxing and just continuing meditating to a more refined level, the mind comes out, because of the fear, comes out of that state, starts thinking, proliferating again, what was that, panicking. So the main way to deal with that is just keep practicing regularly, and one becomes more familiar with the whole state of the mind calming down, the different conditions of the different kinds of rapture and happiness that arise. And one becomes familiar with it through regular practice, then it's no longer strange, unusual or frightening. Just when you practice samadhi it's like this. The mind knows, so that when it knows something, it's familiar, it won't be afraid and it won't come out of that state. It will be happy to stay in that state because it trusts itself.
But Ajahn, I don't know whether it's because of that experience. I noticed that my meditation seems so that every time when you want to go into deep concentration, something is holding me back. I just couldn't completely let go like before.
This feeling of being pulled back, really it's just a sign that at that time in our meditation, our mindfulness has kind of run out of its energy. We've put all our effort into developing mindfulness and concentration at that point, and we've reached our limit of our mindfulness, and so the kilesas, different attachments and desires, are able to pull the mind back and start thinking again. So the only thing to do is keep practicing, keep training yourself. Little by little your mindfulness will become firmer and your concentration more steady, and then you won't experience that coming back or being pulled back. Your mind will just stay stable and firm, so keep going deeper. But it's a gradual thing, little by little. As we improve our mindfulness, one will go deeper into deeper states of peace.
I wasn't sure whether it's because I was attached to my body that I need to do some contemplation in my body.
There's several factors. One is, yes, we're still attached to the body, and the other is just the strength of our samadhi and our mindfulness is too weak. We haven't trained enough, practiced enough. If you keep practicing, training, then you'll be able to push through, let go of that concern about the body and go in much deeper. But it's a matter of time and practice.
Bhante, may I ask a very mundane question? In Sri Lanka, it's most of the time when we are worshipping very I see that the Shivaran is having this posture, and all of you are on the separate. Is that something to do with the kind of guru and
this posture I'm sitting in is we're trained to sit like this as monks out of respect for the Dhamma, or listening to Dhamma talks or chanting the Dhamma teachings. But when we meditate, we sit cross-legged like this.
So is there any disrespect if we sit like this in front of you?
It's just custom, and the custom of Sri Lanka is like this, that's fine. The Thai custom is to sit like this, and so because we've been trained, the roots of our training is Thailand, so we train like this. This is the Thai tradition, yes, but he was just saying in Sri Lanka the tradition is to sit cross-legged, and that's fine as well. One shouldn't feel that if there's something wrong sitting cross-legged, if that's the culture, the tradition, that's fine.
So left or right doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
I changed it to for comfort. And I didn't know
You'll find after a long time you can't sit for very long.
But there is a gender attachment also. I think the ladies are asked to sit like that. I don't know. That's how the tradition is.
Yeah, females like this and
the children like that.
In Thai, for the monks, even the monks will sit like this for a Dhamma talk. It's the cause of a lot of suffering to the Western monks, because they have to learn to sit, and it's quite painful. When I was a young monk, sometimes you have all night Dhamma teaching from 7 in the evening, maybe till 5 in the morning. You're supposed to sit in this posture all the time.
But you can change.
You can change. But after a while, whether you change, it doesn't make any difference. Your legs are on fire. He said normally he'd be sitting like this, but because there were many Sri Lankans, he thought he'd sit like this. He's been to Sri Lanka before and he's talking to everyone was sitting like this, so he remembered he sat like this. He says the tradition probably comes from the training monks have to learn how to sit in a graceful way, in a mindful, graceful way, and the dress of monks is similar to a lady. We have a skirt, a wrap around, so to sit, it's like a lady has to learn to sit gracefully, mindfully, so monks and ladies, they have that in common. And Ajahn was just teaching about, was asked about what to do with someone in the household who maybe is unskillful with their speech and always being rude and critical about other people, always seem to know better than other people. And he said, well, try to point out the importance of reflecting on our speech to see if it's correct, to reflect on if we say something, and if we're critical or rude to others, well, what is the result? Do they feel good, feel pleased to hear those words? Do we feel good afterwards when we remember those words? Sometimes though these people, you explain all this and they don't get the point, they still can't control themselves, they say yes, yes, and then a few days later they're doing it again. So he says, well, in that case, if it's someone who's very, very difficult to train or change, then all you can do is change yourself. So you might have to be very patient and you just practice your meditation as they're speaking. You don't agree with them, you don't encourage them, even though you've told them and this isn't a good habit. If they can't see it yet and they don't change it, all you can do is yourself. You just keep practicing mindfulness yourself and just have to bear with it and be patient. And they said this person even goes to the temple regularly. Ajahn said, well, some people go to the temple but they never really see the temple. They go to the temple, they see the outside of the temple, they see the trees, the buildings, and the outside appearance, but they don't really find the inner temple, meaning that they don't go and develop the mindfulness, the restraint, the qualities that the temple is encouraging people to bring up. It's like this teaching, Yawada Patimokkha, it says abandon unwholesome dhammas and develop good dhammas and do meritorious things. People love to go to the temple and do meritorious things, but often they forget to abandon the unwholesome things. So they never really progress in their practice because they're trying to do good, but they're forgetting that they also have to give up the unwholesome, unskillful habits that they have. You have 2 children. You're asking how many boys, how many children?
2 is enough, be multiplied.
Says nowadays in a country like Australia, if you have a few children, the cost is quite a lot, isn't it? You have to pay for everything, for their education, for their entertainment, their pastimes, sports, all the different activities they do. By the time they've grown into adults, you spend a lot of money, you have to work and earn a lot of money to look after them all.
And then is it because of the karma that we had to pay them back?
You have to remember that as a parent, we're what we call bupakari, which means we're the first ones, the beginning of their life in the world. We're the first ones to help them and help them in every way, their material help, education and spiritual as well. We lead them to the dhamma. And the qualities of a bupakari, they have the 4 brahmaviharas. And with your children you have to have those 4, not just 1 or 2 brahmaviharas. You have to have all 4. You have to have the metta, the well-wishing, the karuna, the wishing that they don't have suffering or that they free themselves from suffering. The mudita, for when they're successful, we have to share in their success, be happy for them when they're successful. And upekkha, we also have to understand that they have their karma and they're going to be affected by their own karma that they've created and are creating. And the other quality of the bupakari is that you have to be, you help your kids without wishing anything in return. We have to develop that. If you don't have it already, you have to develop that attitude that you just help because that's your duty as a bupakari, bringing them into the world. You shouldn't be looking for anything in return or just has to give. That's the appropriate attitude. Probably enough for today. So